The film begins with Goring. He enters the platform free will and meets Trimagesi, first cellmate, and obtains lots of information. Only 2 people could be on each floor. It was somber. There were 2 beds, a sink, and a WC. The platform consists of 333 floors and came down with a large piece of food a day. The guests had the opportunity to take an object with them. The only thing that matters was the food for their survival. One of the rules of the platform is not keeping food. Goring and Trimagesi changed a floor. To survive, Trimagesi had to eat Goring's meat. Goring met a woman who came down every month looking for her child. Trimagesi was killed, and Goring had a new partner. She was the administrator of the platform and wanted to make sure the rations were enough. After a month, he got a new partner who helped him send a message to those above. John Atkinson talks about the parallel religion, where Goring refers to a messiah because he sacrificed himself for others. According to him, the film refers to hierarchies in capitalism, where people from the upper floors represent the rich and those below the poor. He mentions that the writers read in a literal and figurative way as the poor fight for food to survive. In the film, they show that the system must change, and an example is the girl, who represents that the system is broken since children are the main victims of class problems. Since I watched the movie, I had a doubt about what the she represents, why she was the real message. And reading this review, many things make sense to me, and I agree with. Showing the youth being affected is like showing the future being destroyed, because that's what youth really is, the future. They are ending with humanity by classifying people and making them fight to survive. The director Gastelum talks about how the film has a very dark vision of the world. He mentions that a metaphor they wanted to add is how we enter the world protected by our parents, and over time we realize that life is a battle to survive. And another message was to represent that collective stupidity with which we deal that prevents us from seeing the reality in important issues. And reading this makes you realize that living is a battle to the end, where carelessness can lead you to defeat. And there are so many things outside that are more important than we think. We look away from the real problems, letting them get worse, without us doing anything about them. Carolina Marcelo, a master in literary, cultural, and interracial studies, highlights the fact that the film talks about religion, the platform being hell. She says that during the film there are biblical references, and in the outcome, you can see a representation of a capital sins in the guest, such as the man throwing the money. For her, the girl or the message represent a symbol of hope and possible transformation. Actually, I don't really think that the film talks about religion. Yes, it has elements that relate to, but they are normal human actions, and with what I do agree is with the girl representation, because as I mentioned before, youth is the future. We have known that each image tries to convey a message, but we know it until we really pay attention to it. This specific image has a change in the paradigm of society. These things have a great importance in the film because this is a form of transmitting the way of seeing the world of a mother in search of her child, and this is why it is important to carefully see what an angle wants to convey to us closely and how to see the world. The image shows a woman sitting on the platform full of food debris from the previous floors. Her face conveys sadness, fatigue, and purity. Among the components of visual work is the woman, the main subject, transmitting with her gaze and expressions survival, loneliness, fatigue, sadness, strength, and even anger in her eyes. The woman and the food are the form. They are both related because, although a mother has all the world around her, her love will be more valuable than everything that surrounds her. In the context, we have a photo taken in 2019 by the cinematographer Juan D. Dominguez. She's a 27-year-old Spanish woman named Alexandra Mazancay. The context wants to convey the greatest of the unconditional love of a mother. In the elements of form, there is the imaginary line, which represents two completely different worlds and situations. In one, we have a mother who under her is abundance and wealth, but at the same time indifference. On the other side, we have a hungry man full of anger and despair, where the only important thing is food. In the shape, there's the woman around a great banquet, transmitting her situation through her face. We can find great values in the image, such as the lighting on the woman's face and the shadows on the entire table, making the banquet look evident. The colors they use are dark, therefore they reduce the color that is seen if you pay attention to the image. Dark colors and lighting convey harmony before the eyes, but at the same time emotions such as empathy or sadness when seeing the face of the woman. The main textures that we find are the woman's hair, her clothes, the pillow, the platform, the plates, some food, and even the floor. In the principles of design, we see how they achieve a balance between so much food and the main subject through the colors and the distributed quantity of each thing. We see how the fruit is repeated in different parts of the platform, but following a rhythm to balance the dishes and the woman. In the proximity, we have the woman and the man who is separated from each other. We see the contrast between the two, where the woman looks exhausted, without bathing, and physical damage, while the man looks strong and hungry. Used and because of how the photo was taken, the platforms looks a little smaller than it really is. The scales are diminished by the angle at which it was taken. What dominates in the image is the woman, because even with a lot of food around, she is still the main one. In the movement and direction, we have the man moving forward to do something to the woman. In the depth, we have all the food that is on the table, making it look a lot. To conclude, I have to say that I really enjoy doing this task. Making the learning particle helps me to really learn about image culture, how to read an image and detect important parts of it. Also, having this new knowledge helps me see the world in a different way, paying attention to the details and what the images around me want to convey. Listening or learning about other opinions of the same images made me see different forms of representation, reflecting and comparing with what the author really wanted to show. The real question that came out during this time is why the images turned that important to the author and how they see and represent the details.